Hello, it's Alex. Welcome to my channel. Thank you so much for joining me for this week's Friday sews. I've got a few things to show you. So where shall I start? I'll start with my dress. If you were following me last year, you might remember that I made yet another Armidale dress from the Style Arc out of this linen from Higgs and Higgs that has this kind of embroidery, scalloped edge broderie anglaise type thing to the selvage of the fabric. And I made it in my normal size, and then I couldn't understand why when I came to put it on it was too big, and the two edges at the front, rather than overlapping, were just meeting each other. And then luckily lots of you commented and said it's probably because you cut it on the cross grain in order to get that effect at the hem, which of course was true. I put it to one side and thought maybe I'll be able to fit into it next year. Anyway, hallelujah, I do now fit into it this year, so that feels really nice, mostly because it's very annoying to have made something and to have put all that work in and then not be able to wear it. I've been having a good old wardrobe sort out. It's partly why I wasn't here last week. I've put away all my big thick winter jumpers and got out all the spring summer stuff, but I have been really ruthless. All those garments that come out every year and then get put back and get put away again at the end of the season unworn, they've all gone to the charity shop. And I was just really ruthless in general. You know, things were bobbly or a bit too worn, they've gone. I've very much looked at how things are fitting and not fitting, because I have changed shape quite a bit since this time last year. So yes, it has meant that I can now see that there are some quite big holes in my wardrobe, which you may not believe because I sew so much, but it is true. And it also meant that I tried this on again and it does now fit. So I'm quite pleased with it. It's not perfect. I do find it was did find that it looked a bit plain. So I got these buttons. I know I'd already ordered some buttons ready to put on it and I've put them somewhere safe, therefore I can't find them. But I got these ones from Maggie at Textile Garden because I really love orange and I thought it might just lift it a little bit and give it a bit of something. I also, to be honest, have my eye on some orange shoes. So I thought if I put orange buttons on my dress, it would be the perfect excuse to buy the orange shoes. So I really do like that. I clearly last year added some length to this dress because it's definitely not designed to be as long as this. I mean, this is ankle length. And I'm not sure that if I was making it this year, I would have added quite so much. Obviously my ideas or my taste has changed since then, but it is wearable. The hem isn't exactly perfect because I was trying to maintain that scalloped hem, and because this is a number of panels, you've got 3 skirt panels at the back and then another 4 at the front, so there's a lot of messing around with the grain line there, and obviously I was cutting it on the cross grain, so yeah, it's not perfect, it's not 100%. I really hope that I do wear it because a lot of work went into it and it has felt really satisfying to have salvaged it and to for all that work to have not gone to waste. The only other thing that I think I might change is just putting it on today. I think that I'm not quite happy with the length of the sleeve. It has got a turn up on it, which I've just got some stitching underneath to keep in place. And I think I'd like them to just be a little bit shorter I think it might just sit a little bit nicer if it was more, yeah, I like that length better than I like that length, but nitpicking. But yeah, so really that has been what I've been doing. I have been focusing a lot on sorting out all the spring and summer clothes and looking at where those holes are. And the biggest issue I've definitely got is a lack of trousers. Obviously I live in the UK and spring can quite often be, and I live in the rainy northwest, it can often be very wet and not necessarily all that warm. So if I think about it logically, until we get to high summer, the thing that I wear most tends to be trousers, and obviously a top. And at the moment, pretty much all I've got is jeans. So I definitely intend to make a new pair of those wide leg trousers that I've been banging on about all year, the Billy trousers from Bella Loves Patterns. But I was definitely in the market for something with more of a straight leg and something with a taper leg. So I had a good old look online at the fold line and all the usual kind of resources. There's not as many straight leg trouser patterns as you would think there would be. Quite a few with elasticated waists or elasticated backs, which isn't something I wanted. I wanted something with a proper fly and a zip and all of that thing. So I decided the pattern that I chose is the Stephen pants, trousers, depends where you are, from the lovely Monty. You might remember that I made her Delano dress earlier in this year, and she made a really beautiful video responding to some of the questions I had about that pattern. I'll link all that in the description box below. But I wanted to have a pair of trousers that I could play with to try and get the fit right. I really struggled with those style art trousers that I made a few weeks ago, and I think, like lots of us, trousers are the thing that we find the hardest to fit. And I was absolutely determined that I wanted to find a pattern, a kind of holy grail pattern that I can return to time and time again. And the one thing that I really like about Monty's pattern, having done the Delano dress before, is that she has really good instructions, and I think she comes from a fashion or a tailoring background from my dreadful memory. Yeah, it's similar to those Bella Loves patterns. I like the instructions. They feel like they come from somebody that really knows their stuff. And the trousers have been brilliant for exactly that reason. I did decide to make a toile. Don't often make a toile. We all know what happens when you make a toile, don't we? We know that if you make the toile, the blooming thing fits perfectly straight away. If you don't make the toile, it's a dog's dinner. Guess what happened? Anyway, I made the toile. One of the things that's great about the instructions is that she actually does give you information on how to do a toile or a muslin, because obviously when you're doing that, you don't want to have to go to the bother of putting the whole fly in and the pockets, and you don't want to do all the details. So it's really nice. She does talk you through which bits you want and how to do it. And she also gives you really, really good information on what lines to mark on your toile. Her patterns and instructions in general have a lot of fit lines on them, and the finished garment measurements are incredibly thorough, which I felt, given that I want these to be my kind of go-to trousers, was really important. So there's a lot of information, you know, calf width and thigh and all of that kind of thing, and a lot of information on how to make adjustments. So I really recommend this if, like me, you struggle with trousers. I think the sizing is goes up to UK 20. I'd check them out. I think it's a 20. So I'm not going to put these on here, but I will insert footage of me putting them on. And you will see, I don't know whether the camera will pick it up, but I literally, this is old fabric I had left over from when we were making scrubs in the pandemic. So I did mark on it with my trusty Sharpie all the fit lines and the hip and the grain line and all the rest of it. And in general, I was pretty happy with it. I made a, can't remember what the European size is, but it would have been a UK size 14. And it's one of those designs where you have a hook, an eye and a button, but they're inside rather than being visible externally. And I like that as well. So I did make a couple of changes, but minimal. I lengthened the darts at the back. I'm not sure whether I needed to, whether it was just I hadn't pressed the toile perfectly, but I felt they needed that. I did what I often do with trousers, which is I pinched out a little bit across the fullness of my bottom. Sometimes with me with trousers, I get creases underneath my bum. And that pinching out at the kind of fullest part and then tapering it away to the edge, you know, to the side seam, so the side seam is unaffected, that often really helps with lines underneath. Now I haven't got lines underneath with the toile, but I still felt it might just look a little bit neater. And I did make a small tummy adjustment, so I've got a couple of kind of lines at the front there that are showing that it kind of needs a little bit at the front. So there aren't instructions in Monty's information for this on how to do that, but I will perhaps link some other information. Yeah, I'll put a link below on how to do that. But I didn't do a particularly big one. I think maybe about 1 centimetre opened up at that centre front, and I possibly could do it a little bit more. My finished trousers are, this fabric is going to read as black, I am pretty sure, but it's from Bornella Fabrics and it's a, what is it? I think it's a kind of twill. It's got a little bit of stretch to it, but tiny. They're not designed for stretch, but just that kind of comfort stretch. But it's actually a very, very dark green. And one of the things I like, again, it's another reason why I like Bella's patterns from Bella Love Patterns. Lots of attention to how they look on the inside. I used some leftover fabric from when I made the Calvin wrap dress last year. So I'm really pleased with how it all looks. Actually, I'll tell you what, I'll turn them out. Because it has quite a clean front look to it, there isn't any top stitching on the waistband, and it's a case of when you sew the waistband on, see, look how satisfying is that, and it looks nice on the inside. Yeah, when you sew the waistband on the front, you do a stitch in the ditch. I struggled doing that and getting it to look good, so I have to say there are bits of mine where I've had to unpick and I've ended up just doing it by hand. And I think if I make another pair, I might do a version where I add some belt loops on, because there aren't belt loops on it, and I do a top stitched waistband in a more kind of traditional sense, but that's just for variety. And the other thing that is information that is given in the instructions is how to change the shape of the leg, which I guess is mostly given because you may need a wider leg or a slimmer leg according to your body. But I thought that would give me the option to adapt them so that they could look a little bit more like a tapered pair. So I've got two silhouette styles out of one sewing pattern. So I like them very, very much. I like the shape of the leg. It is going to be really, really comfortable to wear, really, really versatile at this time of year. I'm going to be able to wear them with pretty much anything. And then I'm going to pretty much trace the pattern off. Don't often do that. and do a tapered leg version some point in the next few weeks. That's my mum. Yeah, so I'm going to do a tapered leg version some point in the next few weeks. But I would definitely recommend this pattern. I think it's really good. I'm hoping that this will be exactly what I wanted and just my kind of master trousers pattern. Yeah, apart from my wide leg Billy ones. But yeah, really pleased with them. It's always nice to have something that looks nice on the inside as well. So I'm definitely going to make my next pair pretty soon. I actually have some, so yet again, dark green linen fabric here that I just washed and pressed yesterday, all ready to go. So in general, my focus, because it's Me Made May at the moment over on Instagram, that is also really helping me to focus on what I've got in my wardrobe. I find it to be a really nice challenge, Me Made May, because for me, yes, I've got holes that need to be filled, but it also forces me or encourages me to look at the things that I have got and to perhaps wear them in different outfits, or yeah, just look at different combinations. So I'm kind of enjoying that, although it's a bit of a challenge. I have been given a really nice slightly elevated tote bag pattern from Dhurata Davies. So yeah, she did give it to me with no ties, no need to mention it or anything, but I think it's a really nice one because it's a little bit, yeah, next stage up from the bog standard tote bag with straps. It's called the twin tote, I think. It literally has sort of two sides to it and an internal pocket, so it's a little bit more complex. Great if you're a beginner and you just want to kind of move on to the next stage, but also great for the rest of us who've got those kind of odd bits of fabric that you know are usable but quite difficult to know what to use them for. So I thought, yeah, I was really impressed with this pattern. I did want to mention it. I'm definitely going to be making some. I like the idea, maybe this is just me, but I like the idea of making a few in different colours and then having my tote bag matching my outfit. It's a fantasy, maybe I won't actually do it. I don't know if I'll have the time, but that's where my head went with it. And yeah, actually, it's kind of reminded me, with time in mind, I'm not convinced that now the weather has improved that I'm going to be able to do weekly videos. I've been managing to do it pretty much a straight run through since Christmas until we got to Easter. But I've got big plans we have big plans for our garden, and I really have enjoyed doing some gardening this week. There are other things that I want to do that I just never seem to have the time for, and yeah, don't get me wrong, I will still be sewing, but you know, there's odd things, like I've really got into fermented foods and I want to learn how to make sauerkraut and kimchi. If anyone knows, please let me know. I want to do some more in the garden. I enjoy walking a lot more when the weather's really nice, and so I just think I may not be as frequent. Hopefully it will just be fortnightly, but I'd like to give myself a little bit of flexibility. I hope that you'll understand that. I think in general the sewing community tends to die down a little bit in the summer because we all tend to be doing more outdoorsy things and going on holiday if we're lucky, far more than during the winter when we tend to be sewing a lot more. And I think that's where it's going to go for me this year as well, hopefully. But yeah, sewing is never going to stop. Okay, so that's me this week. I will be back really soon. I will obviously put links in the description box for the pattern that I mentioned, and I will see you really soon. Thanks a lot. Bye bye.